We get to see the maple trees, maple sugar and the maple leaves. We get the biggest wheat fields growing tall. In Canada, where we see the reversing falls. In Canada, we get to see them all.
Well, hello. I hope everyone had a nice holiday. Here we are back again, and we can't have nice things at Christmas. Not with the Mango Mussolini sitting around with his thumbs active on Christmas before most Americans had finished opening presents or carving the turkey. The big turkey in chief was trying to carve up the world again.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
From America First nationalism, he's now into a manifest destiny and expansionism, American energy dominance. He's attacking allies like Denmark and Canada, who haven't met their NATO spending targets, but are working on them and increasing their defense spending at home, especially since his latest threats to annex Canada as a 51st state and make our Prime Minister the governor, and another attempt to purchase Greenland, and saying that they feel it's absolutely necessary that they control it, no matter what the Greenlanders or the people of Denmark have to say about it.
President-elect Trump says he wants to buy Greenland. I didn't know you could do something like that, but that's what Trump posted over the weekend. He wrote that the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Greenland's foreign ministry simply responded, "We're open for business, not for sale." All right, let's unpack this just a bit further, shall we? Trump didn't just randomly post about this. He had just announced his pick for ambassador of Denmark when he posted it, the country that controls Greenland. And Trump has brought this up before. In 2019, he said that his administration was talking about buying Greenland, comparing it to a real estate deal. Denmark said no way, and Trump canceled a trip to Denmark in response to that. So why Greenland? That's important to this. You see, Greenland is home to a U.S. Space Force base, for one. It was an Air Force base for decades, but shifted to Space Force in 2020. Greenland is also rich in valuable minerals, as well as oil and natural gas. So could Trump actually buy Greenland? Is that real to even discuss? Well, the U.S. has acquired plenty of territory in the past. We know this. Our last purchase was in 1917 when we bought the Virgin Islands for $25 million. And we bought that territory from Denmark. But over 100 years later, they don't seem too keen to make another deal. Kat?
How many dumb wars is he trying to lose before he even gets sworn in?
Am I dreaming? Oh, I'm living in my dream.
He's saying that the fees charged in Panama are too high, especially knowing the extraordinary generosity that's been bestowed to Panama by the U.S. We will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America in full, quickly, and without question. The threats this orange felon-elect is making towards our allies, in particular in Panama, may seem like ridiculous bluster, but some of his motives go further and may not just be his own. Out of his personal grievances in Panama is a dispute with them over how the Trump family business was evicted from their scandal-ridden property in Panama City, which had financial problems, and a partner went bankrupt, there were money laundering allegations, and the Trump Ocean Club International Hotel and Tower was his first international hotel venture and one of the tallest buildings in Latin America. We all know how he likes his tall buildings. The project was first conceived of in 2005 by Ivanka, and since her father had connections there through his Miss Universe pageant, they opened for business there in 2011. And one of the main brokers who sold units in the tower, Alexandre Ventura Nogueira, I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure, met repeatedly with Ivanka while working on the project and did business with organized crime figures who may have used the properties for money laundering, earning the tower the nickname of Narco-a-Lago.
Good evening. We're on assignment in Panama City tonight. This is a notorious money laundering center. It's also where the first tower to be built outside the United States and carry the name Trump on it was built. Our investigation, as you'll see, shows that criminals from all over the world use this building as a laundromat for their money. Ivanka traveled to Panama to meet the team.
Roger introduced me, and my company would be selling the units.
According to Ventura, Ivanka was planning to pre-sell units for around $120,000 each. Ventura said he could sell them for a lot more.
Ocean Club condo members accused the Trump team's management of overspending and taking excessive bonuses. And Trump responded by suing, demanding $75 million for wrongful termination. There was also allegations of Russian mob characters involved with prostitution and human trafficking.
Russian mafia came in, a guy called Alexander Sasha Altschul.
And what was he doing down in Panama?
He came down, made a proposal to Ventura, and made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Another partner, Stanislav Kavalenka, also bought several units in the building. He has since been accused of running a prostitution ring in Canada, but the case was dropped when both key witnesses disappeared. The firm's representative in Kiev, Igor Anapolsky, was later found by a Ukrainian court guilty of people smuggling. One of the customers who bought units in the building was an ex-convict who served time in Israel for kidnapping. And those are just the ones we managed to identify. While claiming he didn't know it at the time, Ventura now admits that he was selling units in the building to members of the Russian mafia.
In 2018, a suit was filed in New York federal court by the property owner, Mr. Fintiklis, and his company Ithaca Capital Partners, in which they accused Trump companies of intentionally evading taxes, allegedly saddling them with millions in liability after a 2018 audit uncovered the shortfall. Later filings accused the Trump managers of understanding employee salaries to reduce potential security tax payments and painting the building's finances in a false light before Fintiklis was brought in, which the company denied and said it was completely false. The complaints also accused the Trump companies of mismanaging the nearly empty tower and letting it fall into disrepair. Is any of this sounding familiar yet? After their termination, there was a standoff between the building's owners and the Trump management team, who lasted days, with the staff refusing to vacate their offices and putting up temporary walls to keep the owners from accessing their offices and allegedly shredding key documents. Oh yeah, and he's also worried about the Chinese getting the upper hand there in Panama.
There was a big debate about China's influence in Latin America. Greenland is a hugely important strategic issue, especially as the ice melts, and the thought that Russia or China could get a foothold there is strategically very dangerous to the United States and Europe. Why shouldn't Europe spend more money on its defense, 80 years after the end of the Second World War? These are important questions. The problem is, does Trump make it worse? Does his style backfire? Because in Panama, you have a president that's quite sympathetic towards the United States. Could you push him towards China?
Shipping prices increased because of droughts last year, which affected the canal locks, forcing Panama to drastically cut shipping traffic through the canal and raise rates to use it. The rains have mostly returned now, but the higher tariffs charged on the cargo ships were already bent on expanding the shipping lanes to increase traffic, and the administration of the canal has been much more efficient under Panama than during the U.S. era, with traffic increasing 17% between 1999 and 2004, and a major expansion of the canal Canal began in 2006 to accommodate larger modern cargo ships, completed in 2016. And President Molino is a pro-business conservative who has made lots of other overtures to show that he would prefer a special relationship with the United States. He also noted that Panama in recent years has moved closer to China with the Xi-Beijing agreement, moving away from Taiwan. This means that the U.S. has strategic reasons to keep its relationship with the Central American nation friendly.
There is a risk in offending and embarrassing foreign leaders. I mean, these are people, at least in these three countries, who have to get elected to be in office. They have to be respected by their own populations. And these kinds of insults could provoke them into a confrontation with the United States. And obviously not a military confrontation, because none of those countries could compete with us in that way. But it really does just kind of deteriorate the relations between the U.S. and other countries. And we know that can be important when it comes time to build international coalitions, when it comes time to try to sign new trade agreements. So there is a risk here, even if it's a negotiation tactic.
The Canal has no control, direct or indirect, neither from China nor from the European community, nor from the United States or any other power, Molino said in a statement. And Panama is also a U.S. partner on stopping illegal immigration from South America, and it's probably Trump's biggest policy priority. So, he's kind of not picking his fights very wisely. The war in Ukraine could impact Panama with rising international food and energy prices, changes in trade flows, a reconfiguration of global value chains, and the effect of economic sanctions on the country's financial system. Sanctions would speed up measures to counter money laundering and financing of terrorism. Europe's energy crisis, as a result of the war, has disrupted LNG exports from the U.S. to Asia and China. The United States has partly redirected these shipments to Europe after Russia's LNG exports were cut off. China-U.S. political relations could cause international companies to seek options closer to home, closer to their consumer markets, otherwise known as nearshoring. This would have negative consequences on global trade and could negatively affect some trade routes between China and the east coast of the United States. Also in Panama is a large mining production. The Cobra Panama open-pit copper mine in Donoso, near the Caribbean coast, is the largest private investment project in Panama's history, developed by First Quantum Minerals of Canada. The site includes an international port and a 300-megawatt power plant in addition to the mine itself. And of course, he's still bandying about the idea of Greenland, and they say that the U.S. feels that control of Greenland is absolutely vital. Well, feelings aside, the Greenlanders don't feel like becoming Americans. But if you were to make this purchase, the largest since the Louisiana Purchase, the United States would become the second largest nation in the world by land area, after Russia. Canada is currently the second largest nation by land area.
In Canada, we get to see.
Just as with Panama, some of the reasoning behind Trump's ambitions for Greenland are personal. After Denmark said no way to his offer to buy them last time around, and also perhaps because of the warm welcome they gave to President Obama and not to him. And of course, the Russians are working on trying to access the Arctic Northwest Passage with their icebreaker fleet, and China is also aiming for those waterways. So Canada has been expanding its defenses and its fleet of frigates and icebreakers. The U.S. currently does not have any icebreakers. So I don't know what the plan is for that as far as the old orange mango is concerned, but he's going to need either Canada's or Russia's icebreakers or China's. Good luck. Trump, coveting Greenland, also has a Russian connection. Moscow in years has tried to claim territory up to Greenland's exclusive economic zone, the EEZ. In 2021, Russia formally laid claim to the Arctic Ocean's seabed through 2 new submissions to the UN Commission on the Limit of the Continental Shelf.
Think you know who poses the biggest threat to Russia?
Trump's proposal to buy Greenland is significant because it could have ramifications on Moscow's pursuit of territorial gains. According to Russian TV propagandist host Sergei Mikheyev, who said, "This is especially interesting because it drives a wedge between him and Europe. It undermines the world architecture and opens up certain opportunities for our foreign policy. If Trump really wants to stop the Third World War, the way out is simple, dividing the world into spheres of influence."
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
He also, another Russian propagandist, Stanislav Chenko, said that Russia should thank Donald Trump, who is teaching us a new diplomatic language.
Ah! Jesus Christ! Oh,
Whether or not Trump's able to buy Greenland, his rhetoric is factoring into other major global powers' geopolitical decision-making, including Russia's expansionist objectives in its immediate neighborhood and beyond. There's still some dispute, well, it was actually settled, over where Canada and Greenland's borders actually are. There's the famous Hans Island, where the whiskey wars were held, where at Christmas time the Canadians would leave a bottle of whiskey and the Danish would replace it with a bottle of schnapps, and this went on for a very long time. But in 2018, a joint task force was formed between the government of the Kingdom of Denmark and the government of Canada to establish a boundary between Greenland and the Canadian Arctic Islands, including Hans Island. And in 2022, the Danish, Greenlandic, and Canadian and Nunavut governments agreed to split Hans Island nearly in half along the natural fault line, and was cited as an example of a peaceful resolution to a border conflict shortly after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. According to Time magazine, the new Prime Minister of Greenland, Mutta Egede, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, predicts that there will be increasingly fierce competition over Greenland's economy among global heavyweights. As the melting polar cap opens up more shipping routes to Russia, the US, and Asia, which would benefit China. There are also huge deposits of rare earth minerals in Greenland, among the world's biggest untapped reserves of metals essentials to making high-tech batteries and magnets found in smartphones, electric cars, wind turbines, and other things. And Arctic experts believe that the U.S. has been overly focused on reining in China's influence in Greenland while neglecting to invest economically in the region. In 2018, U.S. defense officials blocked Chinese state-owned banks from building a commercial airport in Nuuk and helped negotiate alternative financing from Denmark. But if you tune into the media, he says, you would think Greenland is all about the US and China.
Look, people would be shocked to learn that only 56,000 people live in Greenland. Greenland has a strategic location on the Arctic Circle. Russia is really playing a lot of funny games in the Arctic to get more control. That is a strategic place with tons of natural resources, with military capabilities. Our access to the Arctic Circle is really small over Alaska. Greenland, who really doesn't have any military, so to speak, and relies on Denmark in a little way, it's really wise for our allies and ourselves to have the protection of the United States on a broader swath of the Arctic Circle. It makes a lot of sense.
But the truth is that of the 41 companies that hold licenses in Greenland, 26 of them are British, Canadian, or Australian. The US, despite all the talk about economic interests, has not a single company operating in Greenland.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
So again, he should be cooperating instead of threatening. And the latest on top of it all, and I woke up to today, was the insulting and ridiculous notion of drafting Wayne Gretzky to run for our prime minister because he's a hockey player. I don't know. Well, Canada doesn't elect celebrities with brain damage. Sorry, Donald. And, I wish a lot of these shows talking about the Canada-US tariffs, whatever, would quit dumping on Trudeau. This wasn't what his downfall was. It wasn't going to Mar-a-Lago or anything to do with Donald or Gretzky or anyone else. I mean, Canada's been doing a good enough job of shitting on Trudeau for a long time now. So, that wasn't what broke our country at all. It's just ridiculous. But we shall have to see in January when he actually becomes president whether any of this is actually just bluster or. Stay tuned for more on Political Drain Canadian Edition.
Follow us on all these things you see here, and our link tree is in the description. Maybe even get some merch.